Hello, friends. My name is Erin Hawkins, and I'm the General Secretary of the General Commission on Religion and Race. I want to welcome you to the fourth installment in the Vital Conversation series, Race, Culture, the Church, and Human Sexuality. Given the current discussion in the United Methodist Church around the ordination and marriage of gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered, and queer persons, we offer this resource for your discernment. There are those who question why G-Corps is involved in the conversation about human sexuality. To this we say, as the agency responsible for lifting up the voices of those historically marginalized, we believe that any discussion about the future of this denomination must include those voices. We encourage you to watch these videos and to discuss them with those in your church and community, as together we discern a way forward.
I'm Rudy Rasmus, pastor at St. John's in downtown Houston.
Vance P. Ross is my name. I'm the pastor of the Central United Methodist Church, Atlanta, Georgia, church at the heart of the city with the city at heart. This is a very, very peculiar time in the life of the church, as there's such a focus on human sexuality, where we're going to go, in fact, a committee called The Way Forward. Fascinated by this, in that we're supposed to have, as I understand it, a certain mission that's priority. It seems the sexuality thing has become priority. And as pastor of a black church, I find that even more fascinating. What's your take?
You know, Vance, I don't understand it. I showed up to Christianity 28 years ago. Ended up pastoring a church 2 years later.
Yeah.
And in my life before pastoring a church, like the people where I worked and served, could care less.
Yeah.
But it seems like the place I serve now, and in terms of the context being the church, people care a lot about human sexuality. And I've never really been able to zero in on what's the real issue here. I've looked at it in from every possible vantage point, and really all I see is fear.
Yeah, fear, and there's got to be some kind of power deal, because the mission of the church supposed to be making disciples of Jesus Christ, and that to change the world.
Right.
Well, if you're spending all this time in other folks' bedrooms, how does this become your mission? And if you're going to pick an issue for transforming the world, is that the one? I've noticed here recently, particularly what's going on in the culture right now while we're dealing with this, right now, white supremacy racism has, as one colleague says, it's escalated and celebrated. And I don't hear the church in general, United Methodism in particular, talking about this issue that impacts the church I serve and the people I serve on a daily basis. I never want to forget what it is God has me dealing with and in, what has happened before, and what I've got to do in love and in proclamation to be a part of the solution.
These current debates really have to do with property, proceeds, and power.
The 3 Ps, Doc.
The 3 Ps. Property, proceeds, power. The smokescreen is human sexuality. So if we look at the money and we're following the money, there's always a great benefit to one particular group or another when division exists. So why so much division right now, unless there is there's something at play that has to do with amassing power. So the tool being used right now is fear.
You know, that what's fascinating about that is I just don't really get how a fear of what somebody does in their bedroom. I just don't get how you get scared of that, and it ain't your bedroom. It's somebody else's. Whereas white supremacy racism is killing people slowly, economically, politically, I hate to say it, religiously, ecclesiologically, and it's killing them by way of bullets. It's killing by way of people going to prison. It's killing by way of people lacking access to education. And then we're not talking about this deadly issue. Instead, we're going to talk about who is biologically connected to whom. Makes no sense to me. And so I do understand from the point of view of those who are LGBTQI persons, or identify that way, I certainly understand and am solidarity with their sense of being oppressed by the church and a larger culture. I get that. I do understand, and I connect to, I'm in solidarity with, their desire for the privilege of marriage and the privilege of ordination. I get that. I think United Methodism is wrong on this one. I think if we take the quadrilateral seriously, scripture, experience, tradition, and reason, if we take that seriously, then we ought to be able to open up around those things. And I believe that as a pastor and leader, I've got to say that priority, particularly for the church I serve, United Methodist Black Church, that priority has to be white supremacy racism.
You know, when I reconcile what attracted me to this faith, it was the love I saw demonstrated amongst Christians. You know, my textbook definition of love is this, and that's allowing a person to be who they choose for themselves without any insistence that they meet my expectation. You know, I think about the people who have been marginalized in a church rooted and grounded in the love of Jesus. I think about even my own situation. I pastored a church in downtown Houston, and over these last 26 years, I will tell you, I have been surprised as to how this crowd that I know, based on my own experience, have been marginalized in life, could at any point champion the marginalization of another people group.
Isn't it amazing? You got to find somebody to be against, somebody to put out, somebody to push out, and somebody to keep out. That's what's fascinating about this whole debate and argument. You're following the liberating love of Jesus of Nazareth,
Right.
An outsider, Rome dominated, not a citizen of Rome, killed as an enemy of the state, killed for saying Caesar ain't God. You're following that guy.
Right.
And following him, we finding somebody to put out. I want to know who he put out. What's the name of the guy? What's the name of the woman? It seems to me that the biblical text, if we're following that one, following that guy, it seems to me he was embracing of a whole lot of people and challenges me and challenges you to be embracing of a whole lot of people. Now, there was some stuff he didn't go for. Greed. He wasn't big on that. Lying on people, wasn't big on that. This guy, this Jesus of Nazareth, that Christ, had a liberating love, particularly for those on the outside and the margins. And I wonder how we ignore that, claiming we're going to be pure in faith.
So I've been doing some research, and my research has been on a demographic that demographers categorized as millennials. So most of my research and most of my conversations have been with people of color in that age group. And here are a couple of things they have told me, and with great repetition. One, there's limited trust for the institution itself, primarily because of the historical leadership of those institutions. That's number one. Number two, there's a great disconnect with the black church's absence from the conversation around social justice. Number three, there is little to no concern about homosexuality in that demographic. Little to no.
Not an issue.
Not an issue. I mean, where have the outcries been from our denominational leadership on the situations that we have literally seen pop up in the last 6 months to a year? Relatively silent. Okay. I mean, mass shootings, silent.
Charlottesville.
Silent. Right. Silent. But by the time we get to homosexuality with this demographic that the church is counting on for its ultimate future, it's no more conversation. No more conversation.
Never addressing it. We got churches right now that tell folk, we don't want a person of color. We don't want a woman.
Right.
No, we're not going to address any of those problems of division following a guy who was on the outskirts, Jesus of Nazareth.
Right.
Instead, we're going to deal with something he never addresses at all. And then act like we've done something smart. Lord, have mercy. It's confounding.
Yeah.
And sexuality is important. My priority is discipleship. Issue white supremacy, racism, and all that it does in our lives, in our communities, in our nation, in our world, and even in our church.
If we look at the product that we are responsible for conveying, I think that product is hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope with a knowledge, with a faith, with a conviction that God is with us. This Emmanuel thing, Jesus is with us, has to be more than just an intellectual notion.
Yeah.
It's got to be a place of conviction and dedication. It's got to be a place where we stand.
And I'll stand with you in that place.
I know you will, bro.